Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon while we're talking about Microsoft and how we have seen a bit of change in the landscape over the last few months with regards to technology and the ever increasing demand on devices and how we can best utilise Microsoft services, licensing and devices to facilitate and help the education sector get these devices. So to start off with, we have Rosie from Microsoft who is going to talk to us about licensing. So Rosie, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen and afterwards I'll be handing over to my colleague Alan, who's just joined us to talk about hybrid learning in the classroom from a more learning outcomes point of view. Bear with me one moment whilst I just get this up. Okay, hoping you can all see all right. Is that okay?
Yeah, that looks good, Rosie.
Fantastic, thank you. So hi everyone, appreciate licensing isn't often the most exciting thing to talk about when it comes to Microsoft and education, but I think it's a really important thing to get our heads around, particularly when we're looking at how we can continue supporting our schools to get onto hybrid and remote learning platforms, because really the licensing is the pinnacle of our solution that underpins what we're trying to do in transforming digital learning in our schools. So first of all, I'm going to start with a licensing models intro to give you an overview of the three models that we have, but mostly I'm going to be talking today around CSP and M365 and how that can support our schools moving on to a digital platform. So when we think about academic licensing, there are three main agreements that customers have probably purchased through, and you will have heard of these already, I'm sure. CSP, which we will see has no minimum requirements and no commitment, so it is available for any academic institution to purchase through. You can see there that it's between 1 and 1,000 plus seats. EES, which is available through our LSPs, our licensing solution partners, and stands for Enrollment for Education Solutions. And this is aimed at institutions that want to commit and meet the minimum entry level of 1,000 or more seats. And then OVS-ES is our oldest licensing agreement. It's the volume licensing that many of our schools are familiar with, which requires commitments, but minimal commitment. So it needs at least 5 FTEs. And we'll talk a little bit later around how we can move away from the FTE by moving on to CSP. But today I'm going to spend most of the time looking at CSP, taking a little look around student use benefit, but largely positioning M365 in the way that we can articulate it to our customers. So let's talk about the M365 family. Excuse me as I just travel through my animations. Here we go. So we've got three main bodies of the M365 family here. You've got enterprise, business and education. And you can see here in enterprise, you've got the core body, which is the Office 365 package. And it's really important to just differentiate that, the M365 and the O365. So if we're talking about O365, we're talking Office, and that's the Office suite that we're all familiar with. M365, Microsoft 365, encompasses a lot more. It's a suite of tools that provides value to our customers and provides kind of the solution that we're looking for in a modern workplace or a modern environment. So let me just skip through these so you can see the full stack. So M365 is available on EES and CSP, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. And you can see that we are licensing our academic customers, so this here, with online services rather than on-premise products, as it has been in the past. And perhaps not surprisingly, we'll talk about licensing M365. And you know that as well as offering the enterprise and business solutions, we have ones that are more specifically aimed at education. So we have the standard suites here. We've got the Office 365, we've got Windows 10 for education, and the enterprise mobility and security. But in addition to that, we also have Minecraft for education. So let's skip on to the next one here. So as well as the two M365 offerings, the individual components that make up M365 can be purchased individually. And then we also have the free version here. So this is the free model, the majority of our schools are on. And you also have the core and the premium options. Now, I don't really like the word premium because I feel like it positions it outside of the space that most of our schools are familiar with. And I'll go into a little bit more around why schools would move on to A5 over A3 or A3 over A1 a little bit later. So within A3 and A5, you also have student use benefit, which if you're familiar with, provides you with the equivalent license that your educators have for free for your students. So let's take a look at what's actually inside of those. So here I've mentioned already, a majority of our customers will start off on the A1 platform. And when I'm saying customers, I mean in the K-12 space. So this is what we're positioned as good. You've got the online suite of the Office tools that we're familiar with, and the offline version, the client versions of Teams and OneNote. You also get a full Windows 10 license and Intune as well. And this Intune is available for 6 months for free and is then available to purchase afterwards through either CSP, OVS or EES. So it's available to license on all three models. We'll then start to take a look at A3. Now, A3 is the same, apart from it provides us with the offline versions of our tools as well. It provides us with a full Intune license and again a full Windows 10 license. What this also has is more capabilities around our conferencing solutions. So it provides us with the capabilities to have telephony. It also provides us the capabilities to have live meetings and broadcasts as well. It comes with a complete and full license for Minecraft education, which is a really key thing, particularly if we're looking at schools in Wales where Minecraft is an essential part of the curriculum. That could be something to be bearing in mind when we're looking at those solutions for schools. In addition, lots of our schools are looking at ways to encourage STEM and game-based learning in their classroom. And also, if we're thinking about ways that we can encourage our students to engage with others when they're not together, Minecraft for Education is a really good thing to be looking at, both from a engagement side, looking at how we can change the way we're educating people, but also we're looking at coding and things like that as well. So moving into A5, this is the full solution. So we tend to see that the most of the value in this license model comes from the additional telephony, comes from the reporting, and comes from additional security benefits as well. So let's just have a roundup of the things that we've spoken about already. So EES has all the licenses, so starting in the left hand there. EES has all the licenses apart from M365 A1. Don't worry about that one for now, we'll come back to it. CSP is everything apart from the device-based subscriptions to Office 365 Pro Plus. And then we can see that OVS ES and Web Direct only have a selection of the licenses available. So don't assume that some of the rights are all the same between EES and CSP. We'll highlight that as we come through this slightly later in my talk here. So we're going to have a look at moving away from FTE. Now, most of the challenges I have when I'm speaking to customers, speaking to partners around moving from an on-premise solution, OVS ES, onto CSP, is moving away from the notion of FTE. So when we're talking about CSP, we start to talk about education qualified users. So imagine FTE is the old world, the new world is education qualified users. So what does that mean? So an education qualified user is any employee or contractor, not a student, who benefits from using a computer in the school or uses a platform product for the benefit of the school. For these people, we would recommend that you license them with a full suite. So whether that's M365, the A3 or A5, whatever's right for their role, that's what we would say. So if they're using a computer for the benefit of the institution, they're an education qualified user. For those light users, let's say perhaps people who are only there temporarily, perhaps people who only use the computer to sign in and sign out of the building, we recommend that those are licensed with the free Office 365 A1 product. So if they're using a computer for the majority of the time, they need a license. If they don't, Let's license them with the A1 product here. So let's now look at what licenses we acquire for those education qualified users and light users. First of all, the EQUs, I'll call them, we know need a license for education platform products. But what are the education platform products? And here they are. And you can see that you can choose from one of the new suites that we've been talking about, M365 Education A3 or A5, or one of the components of those suites, or Office 365 Pro Plus. You can choose more than one of the components, and if ordered, they must always be taken organisation-wide. For light users, we license them with a free product, and that's Office 365 A1, which is ordered as a £0 SKU from your distributor. One of those updates included within the EES format is that customers may mix their education platform products, and by this I mean that if you look at the table, you can then mix within that same row. So if a customer has 1,000 education qualified users, they could license them with 800 A3 and 200 A5s, but they must kind of standardize on the products, but you can mix the plans. So I mentioned that I'm going to be talking mainly around CSP for now. So if you're going to listen to any part, let's listen to this bit here. So let's just have a quick look. So we've already had a look at this. So we can see here that our oldest model, OVS ES, contains our fewer products. ES, which is only available through our LSPs, contains more, and there's a slightly different in the licensing platform. So you can amend your agreements, you can amend your the number of licenses you have at the point of renewal. That's either 1 year or 3 years. CSP is different in that you license it as you go almost. So let's say at the beginning of term, you've got 100 education qualified users, but by the end of term, you've only got 90, then you can actually reduce that at any point, which is a really key thing when we're looking at CSP. So let's have a quick look at some of the changes for education customers and CSP. Just going to scroll. Here we go. So the first change is that the authorized education partner program that many people are familiar with has been discontinued. This means that selling our education products is allowed by any indirect CSP partner. The definition for a qualified education user continues through into CSP, and previously qualified education customers remain qualified. So then let's talk about setting up CSP subscriptions for our customers. You can see here the catalogue of products that is available when you create a new subscription for a customer. And as you select one of these options, you can create a subscription with a minimum of 1 license in it. So these subscriptions are 12 months long, which is important from a price protection point of view, and that's how long the prices are guaranteed to partners for. However, don't be misled into thinking that we're asking for customers to commit to 12 months at a time, since licenses can be added or removed, as I've already said, from the subscription as required. And if the customer needs change completely, the subscription can be suspended so that there are no more charges for those licenses. A CSP partner is charged upfront monthly for online services in CSP, and that's probably the terms they offer to their customers as well. And overall, there are no minimums or commitments to cover in users in CSP, so it's really flexible. So we now need to consider, for those who are more techie minded, the special use rights that are available for products that are acquired through CSP. So let's take a look at what we get. First of all, licenses for Office 365, A3 and A5 give rights to standard and enterprise CALs for Exchange, SharePoint and Skype for Business Server, and then Enterprise Mobility and Security E3 and E5. These give rights to the Windows and Server Center components of the Enterprise CAL suite. But if we're to look at Microsoft 365 Education A3 and A5, then these licenses only give use rights as per the individual products. The extra rights available that we can vacancy in EAS are not available for CSP customers. Exchange, SharePoint and Skype for Business Server are not available in CSP currently, and therefore there's no rights to install these products through CSP. It's just one of the caveats. Office Professional Plus or earlier versions or Windows 8.1 are not available either, and therefore we don't have the rights to install these through CSP currently either. But let's dive a little bit more into M365. So Satya actually talked about M365 as both a product and a vision. It's a vision for how we invent and deliver new experiences for our customers, focus on creativity and teamwork, which I think is really key, particularly in the way that we are living currently. And it's built on a simple and secure platform. So it's kind of a vision for how we at Microsoft look to work together, but across our product teams, our marketing teams, sales and services. And there's a vision for how we go to market to the customer through our partners and through our digital channels. So a perfect world for Microsoft 365 education. It unlocks that creativity in each student. It promotes teamwork. And again, it's built on that simple and safe experience for our students. We're looking at how it sparks creativity and how we can start to bring ideas to life in data visualizations or in 3D. It helps us manage users, data and devices through Intune or Autopilot. It helps protect identity and devices with those intelligent security tools and machine learning. And with that data archiving, governance and discovery, we start to see more value from the M365 suite. It helps us deliver new capabilities to our students and teachers. It helps move away from that model of the teacher directing the class and helps the student individualize their own learning, how they engage with their peers, how they engage with their with their teachers can be completely changed. It also helps our schools move to the cloud with confidence. And we've really seen that through lockdown, through the beginning of lockdown, through initiatives of the Department for Education, but the reluctance of teachers to move to the cloud is starting to reduce because they're moving to a space where actually they have to engage in these, and Microsoft 365 Education is providing that platform for them. And it simplifies and increases the value of what our licensing looks like, and it helps protect our schools from threats as well. It's probably hard to imagine what I've just spoken about if we're really familiar with our on-premise licensing. So I find this really helpful to look through. So on the left here, you've got the education desktop. This is what we see in majority of our schools, either combined with CSP, because we don't have server licensing in the cloud currently, or it's where majority of our schools are currently and they're aiming to get to this space here. So it offers new value in terms of the Skype meeting broadcast, the additional security benefits. So we've already spoken around how Intune is important for creating those users and managing those policies internally, and that's included within our security management suite. It includes Azure AD and other important parts of the EMS suite, Minecraft for education, and then those client access and server licenses as well. So all customers get those enterprise CALs and productivity server licenses, but they don't get the server licensing that we typically see on-premise. So let's have another review of what we've got. So you've got the free license here, and then you've got our two paid models here. So you've got the main Office suites tied up in here and here. Then you've got the enterprise mobility and including of the full Windows 10 licenses as well. So this is where we are again. So just a reminder, and I find this helpful when we're talking to our customers as well. One of the key parts of CSP is, we've already looked at the licensing that's available, is the way that it can change and the way that it can adapt to what our customers need. So, and not to confuse people, but we have different models. So we are licensed by user in most cases, but in some cases we need to license by device. So for example, if you are a customer that has perhaps class sets, then actually it doesn't become it's not easy to manage users. It's actually easier to manage the devices instead, if we're looking at a primary school, for example. And that's where M365 A1 comes into play. So for those of you who are familiar with, for example, the Chrome licenses, the way those are licensed, this works in a very similar way. And it's actually something that we don't talk about enough. So the M365 A1 suite, which is only available in CSP, is by device. So let's dig into that a little bit more. So where does it sit? So I have reminded you over and over again about the M365 family, and we know that it includes Office 365, the online suite, Windows 10, and the security and management tools. So Microsoft 365, which was launched in 2018, follows this pattern as well. And you can see on the left that it includes Office 365 A1 and all those things we've already spoken about. And if you look to the right-hand side, you can see where it fits into the family. But where it differs is that it's a device license. So you can see there's a price of $30, which I think is like £26. That's the ERP. And that's for the lifetime of the device. And by lifetime, we mean 6 years, really. This can be assigned to a new or an existing device. So you can imagine it's great for Windows 7 or 8 devices because of the Windows 10 Pro upgrade license. It's also great for brand new devices because it includes autopilot, which if you're not familiar with is a new way of deploying the device as soon as it gets into the hands of the user based on the user preferences. So this is a really key thing to consider when we're looking at how we can continue that digital transformation with our customers. It's important when we're looking at what the future looks like for our primary schools, for example, or for our shared IT spaces, so in libraries, for example. It's important to consider if we're looking at devices, we should also be looking at the M365 A1 license. So let's look at the information here. So let's just have a review. It's only available through CSP. It's by device, and it can be reassigned to the device. If the device completely dies, that's fine. It can be reapplied to the device, a similar device. It lasts for 6 years, and the ERP is $30, and your CSP distributor will be able to give you a quote for that. There's no differentiated price here, though, for faculty and students, and there's no student use benefit available. Unlike our other CSP licenses where you can kind of chop and change, there's no cancellation. So once you've bought it for 6 years. So I've spoken to us about student use benefit, and we already know that student use is available across all 3 of our licensing models, but let's have a look at what this really means. So I've mentioned already that as soon as a A3 or A5 license is purchased for faculty or staff, it creates eligible licenses for the students. And the ratio of this is as follows. So for every 1 A3 or A5 license, you receive 40 student use benefit licenses. Now, it's important that you order these at the point that you ask for them, because they need to be then applied to the admin center. So for every 1 of the M365 suites, you receive 40 student use benefits. If you're buying an individual part, so let's say we're buying Intune licenses, that is slightly different. So for those licenses, you receive 15. So for a suite, it's 1 to 40. For an individual product, it's 1 to 15. I hope we're all following along. So here we go. So customer licenses will receive the corresponding licenses for the student use benefit, and they must be purchased at the point of ordering. So they're a £0 SKU, and they're available through all 3 models. So it might be helpful if you take a snip of this page, but I'll send them out afterwards. So we've covered our 3 licensing models. We've covered CSP largely. We've looked at the M365 family and what that looks like and the value this can add to our customers. I'm very much aware that our licensing models can be confusing. So I want to very quickly look at why our customers have moved to M365 A3, and then we'll also look at A5 as well. So generally, we see customers motivated by these 6 drivers: a desire to use the core components of M365 through Pro Plus, through Windows 10, and then the increasing security and compliance solutions around the M365 stack. But it's really compelling to tell our customers what the real value is here. And so apologies in advance, because this is actually a terrible slide to look at, but I find it really useful when I'm talking to my customers around what they receive. Here we go. So you can see here the A1 license. Where A3 comes into play is around that Pro Plus, around those additional cloud app securities, Skype meeting broadcast, which we're using now, and the Windows 10 upgrade licenses, and additional Windows tools here, and then the additional security and server cows at the bottom. So why would a customer who's on A3 perhaps move to A5? Or if they've got, for example, a MAT or an academy, why would some users have A5 and perhaps some would have A3? Let's look into that. So as a customer becomes increasingly comfortable and they extract as much value as they can from perhaps A1 or A3, the drivers for them to explore A5 come in these 4 flavors, really. Security, compliance, voice, and analytics. And we've modeled our product offerings to suit these 4 solution areas to add incremental value to A3. So let's look at this again. So within Office 365, A5 builds on everything in A3, but adds significantly more features. On the security and compliance side, A5 now comes with advanced e-discovery, customer lockbox, advanced data governance, as well as advanced value in Office 365 ATP and threat intelligence. Power BI Pro are also included within A5 as well. So if we're thinking about how we would represent data to the governors, for example, to parents, Power BI Pro could be really useful for that. The Microsoft Defender ATP is really the only differentiator at the Windows component level between A3 and A5, but it is increasingly demanded in the edu sector as an endpoint security solution. This is available as a standalone SKU on the price list, but if we're talking to our customers about how they can save money, how they can change their model to create something that is more streamlined, perhaps talking to them around the A5 license is where they can start to perhaps reduce some of that endpoint security so it stands within the A5 suite. So what am I talking about? So let's have a look at this. So when I talk about licensings individually, so per user to buy all these either mini suites, for example, or standalones, we're looking at kind of 20, this is dollars, so this is probably around £18 per user. We start to look at that stack as a mini suite, okay, $12.50. But actually, if we're looking at upgrading as a full solution from A3, we're only looking at $5 additional, probably £3 per user increase. So this is just something to consider. So licensing resources. Whenever someone comes to me around licensing, the first thing I direct them to is the product terms. They will be updated much more so than my brain is updated. So if you take anything away today, the product terms is always a good place to go to. If you're in doubt, your DISTI or the product terms are the best place to go. There are some useful resources. These were created recently, some of them, but are really helpful places to go. So education specific licensing has a dedicated page. We've also got the service provider use rights, some licensing guides, which could be helpful. They're all customer facing, all helpful things, but also internally, if you're looking at how you can improve your knowledge around the licensing models. We also had the Microsoft readiness, which is actually updated on a monthly basis. So that is the end of my talk today. So I'm going to hand over to Alan. Hopefully you haven't all gone to sleep listening to licensing, and I hope this has been helpful for you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosie. I'm just
No
going to
problem.
share my screen.
Let me stop sharing mine.
Hopefully that has pinged up. there, and most people can see the modern education with Microsoft Teams.
Yes, we can see that.
Just see that. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So Rosie's just gone through how we structure licensing and how that can work, and then once you have achieved that, then we can start to talk a little about how it can affect people in education and also working to help students achieve, particularly in the different times we find ourselves in right now, with many people working from home, many people or students even isolating and learning from home, and how that can help as we kind of move forward. So what I'm going to do is probably spend about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so just talking a little bit about how we might look at using Microsoft Teams. We've talked about Teams for some time now, for about a year and a half, about being the one hub where everyone's connected, and how can we make that happen, and what does it look like, and what can you use it for? So it's a platform that you can use for many things. One of the things being teaching and learning, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment or two, and how that can help you achieve what you're trying to do, how it can help you save time, how can it help you have better outcomes through students handing things in digitally and then being able to mark it digitally and hand it back digitally, etc., and how it can actually allow people to gain access to the platform from wherever they are on any type of device they are on, but works particularly well, obviously, as we know, with Windows 10, as Rosie was just discussing about how we have all those offers that work together, and Teams is no stranger to Windows 10 and how it works. It can help you with your professional development. So if there are schools who are looking to run professional development, they can do that through Teams. They can bring courses into Teams. They can have cohorts of people that can collaborate together and help each other out. It can help with student community building, for example, in that we've seen lots of schools, colleges, universities even, who have decided to take their extracurricular if you're at school, or their different societies if you're at university, into Teams so that they can run them in a more efficient way, rather than using sometimes other social media platforms where they're having to give out private emails and private mobile phone numbers, etc. With this, you can use your single Office 365 identity to allow you into there. We've seen organisations use it for things like research, as well as apprenticeships, and it's allowed with the apprenticeships those people who are the providers outside, who are providing the work element of that, to be able to come into the team and be a part of the team, so they can have the conversations, the open dialogue that they're expecting to have with everyone that's in there. We've seen it work very well for faculty and staff coordination. So, for example, every department holding their having their own team, holding their own resources in there, having their own meetings with minutes that are accessible by anybody that needs to be able to get into there to help us help them improve as they're working to achieve their goals for that academic year in particular. So we can see that it can have an effect on the whole of the organisation very simply. But how does it help with the teaching and learning a little bit more? So we find that when we're using Teams, particularly for teaching and learning, that we think there's got four pillars that we can work off as we work around this, and all managed and secured by that Windows 10 device that Rosie went through just a few moments ago. So if we take the left-hand area, first of all, we can see lots of those familiar icons that we're used to seeing, or getting used to, as some of them have been changed as we've worked our way forward, like Microsoft Word, like Excel, PowerPoint, using Outlook, for example. We've got OneNote in there, we've got SharePoint, we've got Power BI, Microsoft Stream, Planner and Forms, all things that are easily brought into Microsoft Teams to allow you to have, if you like, that single pane of glass where you can work from and you don't have to leave to do anything else. So I can see some of my emails into there. I can send emails from Outlook directly into Teams, so we can have that conversation where it should be and be able to collaborate rather than having disjointed emails going backwards and forwards. I can share Word documents to collaborate on, Excel documents, all the things, and give it all the power that I want to have to be able to make sure that I can collaborate really well. And once I've collaborated, I can harness the power of Power BI to show the data based on the information that we've got together to be able to work on there. We could use something like Planner to organise exactly how we're going to carry out the project, it could be the scheme of work, it could be anything that's based around that, where you've got tasks that you want to set to different people to be able to work on it if we're looking at it from that point of view. And forms being that area where we can collect lots and lots of data for them, and that's really important. If we move around just one to the right there, we've got things like calls, like chats, like Teams for themselves. And why do we have Teams? Why do we chat to people? What is it that we want to get out of chatting, and why is it useful within education? Well, we find that actually being able to talk to people is one of those fundamentals about learning, and if we're not able to have those discussions, we find it very difficult to learn. It's very easy to read something, but it doesn't mean that you learn it without actually having the discussion with people. So being able to chat is something that's fundamental to the actual learning process and being able to work with people. We have calls that you can make, so you can have those meetings, the virtual meetings. You can call people using the telephony features if you wanted to. It's unlikely you would assign them to the students, but definitely from a staff point of view, Teams can be your telephony platform to be able to use. And so if we're able to use those, we're thinking about some of those very much inbuilt features that we've got in Microsoft Teams. So if we just go one further around there, we can see on the right hand side that we've got some of the third-party apps that we know are really powerful and that we're seeing organizations use, not just in the UK, but around the world, to add extra abilities to Microsoft Teams to bring everything in to be able to use in one place. Things like Quizlet, things like Kahoot, for example, that lots of people are using to make sure that they're adding in some interactivity in different ways into how they're delivering for students to learn, and also making sure that they're checking learning by using those to see what the students have been up to and what they're doing. We have things like Moodle, where if you have a VLE, for example, we've got some great integrations on how teams can work together with Moodle, and we've made some announcements around one of the other big VLEs not so long ago for Canvas, and how that's going to be integrated much closer into Teams as we work our way forward, and to keep developing as we know Teams is, even though it's only been around for a short period of time. But we know that we've got well over 600 different apps that you could have in Teams, not all necessarily suitable for education, but many are, and many can be used in fantastic ways to help add extra dimensions to the learning, add extra content so that you can do things in a way that you want to do. And then if we look at that bottom area under Teams there, we can see where the real power comes in for education. So the backpack is our assignments logo, and through using the assignments we can set in for tasks for students to do and to complete and to hand back in a simple fashion that we can then look at and we can mark online. And by marking online, I can mark that information, I can ink on it, or I can work with students by writing comments so that they can act on those comments, and I can actively see what they're doing as they're improving their work, because we're able to collaborate on that at the same time. OneNote being that fantastic idea around a notebook. Could be a lab notebook, could be a notebook that for a student that's just working on their own development, for example, where you can put all sorts of things, media, photos, you can write in there, you can do all the things that you'd expect to be able to do, and being able to share that from Microsoft Teams makes it so powerful for me to see exactly what the class are up to, because my class notebook gives me access to all of the students that I have in there. And it allows me to go in, and leave comments, videos, verbal, if I want to, so I can talk to them and have them act on information that we've got there, as well as some of the other things that they need or have and they can work with. And the last one there that I'll mention is Flipgrid. So you may have seen Flipgrid and you may not have seen it as of yet, but it's a very simple platform where you can go in and you can record a video. And you can record a video that may actually give me feedback on how I've done today. And I can get the whole class to contribute to that video. And there'll be all separate clips that we can then manage, we can look at, we can talk about, and we can talk about some of the things that are dear or close to us that we want to be able to discuss. And we can do all sorts of things with Flipgrid now that's improving. For example, we've got our immersive reader in there so that people can have a look at that and they can listen in a way, or read things in a way that they want to be able to see as we start to build out how our products work all the way across everything that we've got within Office 365 and Microsoft 365 that Rosie was showing you earlier on. So how do we build those blocks then for that modern education institution? So we took a look probably about 18 months ago now about how we might be able to do some of the things that we're looking for and how it might be able to change education. And little did we know what was going to happen around March time when we know that people had to change the way that they did things very quickly for some organizations. Well, where is it that we could store within Office 365 and Teams our course materials and management if we wanted to? Well, we can store those in SharePoint, we can store them in Teams and OneNote, and we can build the areas that we need. Where is it that we might put video content? Well, we have Microsoft Stream as the streaming platform where we can find our videos, we can find transcripts of our videos, they can have all the parts that we want them to have to be able to show everything we want. We can even embed a Microsoft form in a stream video so that we can check understanding and learning as we go part of the way through it. And so we can make sure that we're always able to do this checking that we know is so important when we're delivering and trying to help students. Where is it that we can do assessments from? Well, we can do it in Office 365. We can set up things within Word, for example, that people could work on. We could get people to create documents they can hand in, and we can also do it in Microsoft Forms. And in Microsoft Forms, it could be in two different ways. It could be a form that they fill in and they hand back to us, and then we look at and the information we've collated. Or it could be as part of a quiz. And if it's done as part of a quiz, that can be auto-markable. So we can set content that we know can have an auto-markable answer to it, and then the students are informed straight away about how they've done and what they've got right and what they've got wrong. So it's a very quick way of giving that feedback for them. We can create cohorts automatically using Microsoft Flow or Power Automate as it is now alongside Teams. So we can start to make sure that we've got everything that we need. And if you build in their school data sync, then you're able to pull directly from your student information system, create all the teams that you need, and then you're able then to carry on with your academic year knowing that everyone's got everything available at their fingertips when they've got the devices in front of them or their mobile phones, wherever it is, as a platform to be able to get access to it. You're able to create things like we talk about lecture capture in higher education, but it could be, how do I record a lesson? What do I need? What do I do if I record a lesson? Who's then got it available to them for them to be able to see, and what can they do with it? And it's thinking about how we create that content and how it can be consumed, how we can use it year on year. So it doesn't have to be a once-off event. It can be used again and again and again, and that's the important part about being able to store the things that we've got. How do we use our calendars to help us organize ourselves, creating meetings and making them recurring so that students know exactly when they're going to be about? Using your calendar for things like office hours. So if you've got access to maybe Microsoft Bookings, you might create a calendar for a member of staff who then says, well, I'm available for these one-to-one sessions at these times, and if students are at home, they're able then to book that slot, and they're able to have that conversation with a member of staff. We've even seen bookings used for parents' evenings, for example. And we've got parents who are using that live link. They're booking their slot, knowing that they're going to have, albeit a video conference with the teacher, but they're going to get to still have that information about how their child is doing at school, or wherever they are studying at that particular time. We mentioned assignments and how OneNote really backs onto how that works, and where the cloud will fit into there. So how does OneDrive fit into what we're doing? Where's all that storage going? And then we can't forget what's really important is how we analyze that data for personalization and development. So how do we use the inbuilt tools in Teams, like the Insights tab in a team, or the Insights app if we want to look across multiple teams, to find out who's engaging and what are they doing with it? And with all this information and all these thoughts around, where is it that we go, and what is it that we do when we're looking to hold, we call them online meetings, but actually they're classes now, aren't they, for many people? So what do you do before the class? What do you do at the start of the class, during and after? And we've written some of this stuff to make sure that people are able to follow it as a bit of a guide. So obviously you'd have to create your class, then you'd have to schedule your meeting. Ideally, it's a channel meeting, because that's what makes it more secure, having it inside the team where only those students in your organisation that are in your class can then use that link to get in. Then we'd be looking to update the meeting options so that you can decide who's a presenter, who can share their screens, who can mute and record and all those sorts of things that if it isn't done at the organisation level, you can do individually where you are. Share some of your pre-read materials. Make a test call if you've not used Teams in a while or you're not quite sure how things will work for you. And then at the start, we talk a lot about customizing the backgrounds, or at least blurring that background, because then if you're at your home, it makes things secure, so you're not showing any particular details behind you or anything else that you wouldn't want others to see. And then I'm not going to work my way all the way through those, because I think there's lots of things to go through, and I'm happy to share this resource so that people can think about how they might use it or get access to it so they can use it afterwards. But just thinking at the end, it's the signaling of the end of the meeting and pressing that end meeting button, not just the leave. If you're the educator and the owner, you want to end it so it ends it for everybody else, and then you don't have students left there who are able to have conversations that you don't want them having when nobody else is there. So if that's lots of information, I know, and if you were wanting to go and find out where you can go to get some free professional development, for example, we have something that we call our Microsoft Educator Community. It's a place where we can send people to have a look at and get some free training. You can explore courses, there are learning paths there, there's lesson plans, and there's a bit of gamification, and you can get your achievements and badges for doing different courses. We released a new page that's on the Educator Centre just the other day, and I've put it down there as the aka.ms/teamspp, and that is a page that's dedicated to Teams resources only, and it talks all about how you can do different things. There's an interactive walkthrough that you can do in there. There is a guide for teachers, there's a guide for students that we've made available in there for people to be able to use and think about and enjoy as they go through. But not only do we have that, and Rosie's talked a lot about Office 365 and Microsoft 365, but we've got all sorts of other bits that we sometimes don't necessarily mention enough. So things like Minecraft and how you can use Minecraft in education is fantastic. We've got things like MakeCode. We've got I mentioned Flipgrid already, but we've got lots of different materials that are STEM and STEAM materials that you can go and use and have a look and find resources that we've already got that are available that you can use. So the robotic hand there on the right hand side, we've got materials that allow you to go directly to that, and you can see I'm hovering over there, it's got a link to it, and it's a workshop. It tells you all the materials you need, what you might need to use to make it work, so you can actually make it. And we're spending lots of time making sure that we have these resources available for everybody to get access to, and to make that delivery that much easier, much simpler when you're using technology with everybody in your organization. So I'm going to stop there as I've been through that, and leave some time and allow both Jack and Sarah to come back to us now and take over.
That's lovely. Thanks, Alan. Just while I allow and share my screen, I'll just start. Just bear with me. I'll just load this up. You should now hopefully be able to see the presentation. Alan, Rosie, can you just confirm that's okay?
I can indeed.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so obviously for us it's about how we take what both Rosie's covered on, so I'm just trying to put this into a full screen view, there you go. Okay, so how we take the licensing information that you may or may not have currently, and also look at the offerings within those licensing around the teams that Alan's just taken you through, and what we offer as an organisation. So what about the devices? How do we get the devices to do all of that wonderful stuff that Alan's just taken you through into your classrooms? There are a couple of options that can be considered. So first of all, we run a scheme called Get Your Tech for Schools. This allows you to offer out a easy to manage solution for parents to purchase a Windows device that sees it being insured and warranted, so it gives peace of mind to the parent that should their child damage their device in any way, the device is covered and will be replaced. And also gives obviously then the ability for all of the students within the class to have, you know, the same device and have access to those educational tools like Teams that was just referenced by Alan. For the parent, it's easy to manage, spreads the cost of the device over a set period of time. So obviously the benefit to them is it's a manageable cost on a month-by-month basis with everything that's going on in the world right now. The biggest benefit really is to the school in the fact that it's zero cost to give the students the latest technology. Budgets are tight right now, so we have to look at options to be able to facilitate these types of devices to the students. For the school, it's hassle-free. We handle everything from setting up the direct debits of the scheme for the parents to make their payments, right through to facilitating information back to the school on those payments. So it really is hassle-free, and also if the devices have a problem, they also can get swapped out, and we manage that also. So it really does give a hassle-free experience for the schools. And you'll notice there on the bottom of that slide there is a link to our website and the section around the Get Your Tech for Schools that gives you a lot more information. So that scheme really is about getting the devices into the hands of those students. Your other option is obviously just purchasing the devices. We've seen a huge uptake of mobile device purchases from all areas of the education market over the last 6-7 months, and the demand on stock has been immense. For us, dealing with the industry constraints, we're also a manufacturer of our own Windows devices, which allows us then to bespoke our devices to the school's requirements. And we've got a strong range of devices coming through with a good level of stock through till the end of this year, going into next year. Those devices offer the latest TPM security, as it's noticed there, which obviously is very important to schools. So our warranties start with, you know, a 1-year return to base right through into the 3-year on-site warranty service, which again, taking that 3 years on site gives peace of mind to the school that should a device fail, you phone through, we'll have an engineer out on site to you to have a look at that device and get it fixed and back into the hands of a child for their, you know, to facilitate their learning. And I think that's the most crucial thing. So not only do we, you know, facilitate all of the branded manufacturers for their devices, more importantly, we do our own as well. And we see those in an ever increasing amount of schools all over the UK. And then the other thing that we think is extremely important is how do we ensure that these devices going into schools that may not have had a digital platform before in their classroom and using them for learning, how do we ensure that the teachers are able to get the best out of those products? Well, we as a business are choosing to offer technology training for teachers. So when you purchase 50 devices or more, we offer a free training session, depending on the level of device, whether it's half day or full day. We are able to facilitate that training online using Teams. Why not? If we're going to train about the product, let's try and use it. So we can facilitate that online. Or if it is a requirement, we can, providing obviously it's safe to do so, we can look to come on site should it be a requirement. We look to aim to complete these courses with around about 10 to 20 people, so it's most effective. I think anything more than that, the key messages can be quite difficult to ensure, you know, that every person's got the most out of it. So we aim to look to complete those with a maximum of 20 people, and we utilise our Microsoft educators to do that, who being Microsoft educators, they're also, a lot of them are also teachers themselves, so they understand what, you know, you're expected to do with these devices in the classroom, so they understand what are the key things, you know, to highlight and ensure that you do. And in terms of how the days are structured or the training sessions, they're bespoke to every school. They will work with you around the content of what's to be covered. You know, you may be strong on all of the Office applications, but need to focus on Teams and setting up a classroom for the students to attend. if that's the key focus, then that's what they'll do. So they work with the educator to make sure that that lesson is as good as it can be for those teachers. So we want to make sure that if when you're buying devices through Stone, that you get the best from them and they're used to their full potential, and all of the services and features are there for you. So from our perspective, that is the session complete. If you have any queries whatsoever around what either Rosie, Alan or myself have covered off, there is an email address there at marketing@stonegroup.co.uk. Please feel free to drop us an email there. Or if you have a dedicated account manager that you speak to on a day-to-day basis, please feel free, pick up the phone, have a conversation with them. They are there to help you and help you get the best out of what you need. So we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time to join us, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.